this point, let's open it up to questions. You can ask over the phone, or you can type into the chat box questions for any of our presenters today.
Kevin, I've got one for all of our presenters today, and that is, as you are building a business, and Mark, I know that you have built a business and had one that slipped away from you and you had to end it. How do you know when you feel like you can continue forwards and keep pushing and pushing with a new idea? And at what point do you maybe decide it's time to throw the towel in and put your efforts elsewhere?
Todd, do you want, sorry, Kevin, do you want me to respond?
Oh, absolutely, please.
So yes, I'm able to kind of spit the words out now, because when you put your heart and soul and a lot of money into something and it doesn't work, that can be very stressful and even debilitating. And frankly, I think that there's a lot of research out there that really tells you that like a muscle, you've got to sometimes experience stress to get stronger. Thus the saying, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And to Pat's point, I did open a business about 3 years ago that was designed to help people exercise more efficiently and live healthier lives. I wanted to help people with that as my purpose. And it didn't work out the way that I had expected. And I've had a lot of people provide a lot of guidance around that procedure. And I don't know that there was any single point when it's time to move on to something else. More importantly, though, I think having a grounded optimism and a positive outlook and conviction of your beliefs can certainly make the transition from one thing to the next a lot easier. And I know that as a result, this one person said to me that, number one, the period that business didn't work out, in the period of your life is one very, very, very small period of time. It feels like the end of the world, but it's not. And I would share that with everyone today. What we're going through with clubs closed and inability to teach, while it is painful and stressful and incredibly difficult to understand and realize that, that it's ever going to change. Number one, it is. And number two, it's a very, very small part of your career. So stay strong. So I think the key is that you've got to have an optimism, and I wouldn't be half as qualified to talk to people in the way I'm able to today if I hadn't experienced that failure. So if there's an opportunity to learn from any business, then that is something that you can take to your future endeavors. And I know that, I've talked with Todd at least on this subject of just, being in a better place and being better positioned to be able to serve the people that you work with as a result of the challenges that you've faced.
Fantastic. Thanks, Mark. Pat, or any others?
Yeah, I'll add to what Mark says. I think that a lot of people and all of us, you're very scared about jumping in and committing money and doing something different. But it's like that old thing, I think it was Michael Jordan has said that you'll miss all the shots you don't take. And that with failure, it's like, I know Mark and even myself, I've had 2 failed businesses. But each time I do fail, even though it's a painful lesson, you don't make that same mistake on the next one. But one of the key mistakes I made very early on was not doing a formal business plan. And it doesn't have to be a 20-pager or anything, but to come up with a business plan and really think about it and write it down. And then most importantly is to get somebody else to look at it and try and shoot it down. So that was a personal experience, was that I didn't plan well enough on the first one. But we have failure in tennis analytics, and I'm sure Mark and Todd do also in their businesses on an ongoing basis. Within the business, there's daily successes and failures, and I think that's how the business gets better. But again, I think if you've got an idea, you should take the chance, and at least it's part of a journey. It's something that you're gonna learn from later on.
Okay, fantastic. Mark, I have a question for you that someone posed to me. Years ago, I guess that you recommended that, or you talked about wanting your pros to move on to other opportunities within 5 years. Is that something that you said and that you believe in, or where are you with that kind of thought process?
Strongly, and I have good reason for it, and I actually tell clubs that it's a good idea, and not necessarily the director of tennis. That's not really what I'm. I was a director of tennis when I first said that, and it was the result of, I think, a personal conviction that people should want to improve. And while there are some people that are very happy being the best, assistant pro or head pro that they can possibly be, and I'm absolutely fine with that. There's not a problem with that at all. Particularly as a career coach, I say find your niche and dive in and lean into it. However, from a director's perspective and a club's perspective, I've always, I quote Will Hogue, he's past president of the USPTA and a good friend down in my Florida days, still a good friend. And, Will would say that he considers it his responsibility to train his professionals to become directors of tennis. And he's done it, I don't know about dozens, but more than a dozen times over his 40 years at Coral Ridge Country Club. I've seen the people on the call. There's a ton of people on this call who have nurtured, educated, counseled, helped, supported, advised, assistants and head pros who have gone on to bigger and better things, who are now running not only their own clubs, but maybe their own businesses in other fields. So I think that if you do that, you quickly gain a reputation for developing people, which in turn then creates an environment where people want to come and work with you in your club. From a club's perspective, I think it has to stay fresh. So I think, don't, fall in love with me if I'm the director of tennis, but don't fall in love with the assistant pros and the head pros, because every 2 to 5 years, I want to see them move through that role and do a fantastic job over that period of time and grow into something else. Meanwhile, I'm going to bring in the brightest, the best, the freshest, the most exciting person I can find, and my membership is going to benefit from that. And I'm going to benefit from that because that new person is going to challenge me and bring me new ideas. So yeah, I still believe it, as you might imagine from my words, Kevin.
Fantastic. Todd, I have a couple of questions here. First, your favorite book on management or leadership. I know you read quite a bit. And then also, as far as how you do Zoom lessons, as far as pricing it and all of that.
Well, I'll start with the books because those are easy, but I am rereading Failing Forward by John C. Maxwell, who, if you haven't read anything by John Maxwell, you're missing out. He's written 40 or 50 books on teamwork and leadership. I had 21 irrefutable laws of teamwork, and I went through that when I was at a club with my staff. We had to do a chapter a week, and it was really great. But Failing Forward by John Maxwell, and exactly like Warren was talking about, the more, when you fail at businesses, and Mark shared that as well, you learn to build from those mistakes and you try not to make those again. I mean, you look at anybody who was quote unquote an overnight success, they failed at many businesses before they made it big. And my other one that I read a long time ago, and I pull out every once in a while, is Developing the Leader Within by Tony Robbins. And obviously we know Tony Robbins, but those are two of my favorites for sure. On the Zoom lessons, let me interrupt you. Sorry, Kevin. On the Zoom lessons, I am doing. I haven't done directly as far as had someone like a private lesson over Zoom, I am taking care of the schools that we had and logging into there. So I've already, these are classes that have already been paid, but I'm trying to fulfill what the obligations that I have to these students, ones that are interested in there. So I'm also interested in that. I think there's a huge potential in teaching some classes online, and tennis is one of those ones where I can't throw you a tennis ball directly. So how do I teach that class? And so it definitely makes you put your creative hat on for sure.
Okay, fantastic. Pat?
Yes, we had
Do you see others?
Louis Vosloo that's on and would like to make a comment because he knows all three of these people and has said that at least two of them have made a direct impact on him. So
Great.
if Louis can unmute, we'd like to get him on, and I will unmute him if need be. Louis, I've got
Louis.
you unmuted.
Louis.
All right, Louis, you're on.
Did you cut him off, Pat?
He's on.
Okay.
Louis, are you there?
All right, well, as he's figuring this out, let's go back maybe to Mark and Warren if they had a book that was their favorite book on management or leadership.
I just sent you a photo of it, Pat.
I'm focused on this. I haven't been able to see it.
There was so when Todd started quoting John C. Maxwell, I have one sitting on my desk, and it's titled "Sometimes You Win, Sometimes You Lose," but lose is crossed out with the word learn. So the title of the book is "Sometimes You Win, Sometimes You Learn," and I got to tell you, I just this is incredibly therapeutic to me. I hope it is to everybody else, but being able to publicly talk about failure is an amazing cathartic process. So I've already gotten something out of the coronavirus. That was the ability to talk to 60 or 70 people about a business that went sideways. And, I whispered about it at the business conference, the Southern Business Conference, a couple of months ago in Charlotte. And I don't think a lot of people picked up on it, but, listening to Todd, listening to Warren, if there's people on this call who have had challenges in that regard, or you think that you might as a result of this period of time, I promise you that there is opportunity and light on the other side. I promise you will come out of this better. So anyway, Warren, what are you reading?
I don't read. I've been waiting for Mark to write a book because then that one would be my favorite one. But at the moment, the books I've been reading, more into like motor learning. I'm fascinated with learning and I think books like the Malcolm Gladwell books, Outliers and Blink, and then also a book that I read and reread. That has become one of my favorites, a go-to book, is The Sports Gene by David Epstein. So I find that as I'm doing work with analytics, whether it's match data and all of that I keep going back to that whole thing with the link between the learning processes and genetics. And then outside of a different kind of reading is at the moment, we use data analytics tools. So what I've been doing is, doing a course online on just Power BI, which is it's a free course. So I'm doing a lot of reading on that. And, but yeah, no management books until Mark comes out with his new one.
Okay. No comment on that one.
Well, fantastic. Todd, Mark, Warren, thank you so much for being on the call today.